All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope that you all are doing well. I am Dr. Tarsha Bannister, the Faith and Health Education Manager here at the Faith Compass Center at the School of Wake Forest School of Divinity, and it's my privilege and honor to have you all join us today. I'm going to get right into it because we know time is of the essence, and we want to respect the time that you all have committed to joining us, and we want to be good stewards of your time. So I just want to take a moment just to introduce the Summer Collaborative Learning Series. We want to welcome you again to this learning series, which is designed to be an educational initiative to empower faith leaders and communities of color to destigmatize HIV and AIDS and to become influential voices in an effort to end the epidemic, particularly in the southern states. And throughout this learning series, we will explore a comprehensive range of topics, strategies, providing participants with the knowledge, resources, and skills necessary to challenge stigma and strengthen prevention, treatment, and support systems for individuals living with HIV. Our educational sessions are also designed to include expert presentations, engaging discussions, and practical workshops that foster a deeper understanding of the complexities surrounding HIV and AIDS. We hope that we are able to promote open dialogue. We hope that you're able to share your own lived experiences, as well as cultivating opportunities for collaboration in hopes of being able to work together to create a more inclusive and supportive environment within our faith communities. Our overall goal of this initiative is to equip participants with a robust toolkit of evidence-based information, best practices, and advocacy skills that will enhance their ability to make a meaningful impact in their local communities. Hopefully, by nurturing a network of well-informed advocates, we can collectively contribute to the ongoing effort to end the HIV epidemic in the South and improve the lives of those affected by HIV and AIDS. Again, we welcome you and thank you for joining us. Today, our guest facilitator is none other than Marvell Terry, who is an accomplished educator, grassroots activist, and cultural organizer who hails from Memphis, Tennessee. At the heart of Marvell's work lies his deep love for his hometown and community. It was here that he first became passionate about HIV advocacy and education, which became even more personal after he received a positive diagnosis himself. Since then, he has dedicated over a decade of fighting for HIV awareness and education locally as well as nationally. Marvell has served as a board member for Hope House in Memphis, Tennessee from 2022 to 2023, and he is also an advisory board member for the Wake Forest University School of Divinity. He is also the founding member of HIV Racial Justice Network, and in September of 2023, he was sworn in as a member of the Presidential Advisory Council on HIV and AIDS during the 78th full council meeting. Marvell is also an accomplished writer who has published works on HIV research and injustices in the Journal of Health and Disparities Research and Practice, Rhetoric and Health and Medicine, thebody.com, and other publications. And you can learn more about Marvell and his extraordinary work that he's able to do by visiting his website, which he will share at a later time at www.marvellterry.com. I want to present to you all none other than our brother, esteemed board member and colleague, Brother Marvell Terry. Would you all welcome him by giving your virtual applause, if you will, if you're able to? Thank you, Marvell, for joining us. And Marvell, I'm going to pass this over to you so you can take us from here.
Awesome. Just making sure you see the presentation screen.
Yes, you're good to go.
Good to go. Good evening. Well, good afternoon, everyone. It is a privilege to share this space with everyone. I felt like the preacher in the Black church. I didn't know how to sit still in that introduction. As a Southerner, we don't talk about ourselves. So I really appreciate that. I want to express my gratitude to Dr. Bannister Dr. Jones, Dr. Smallwood, and the entire team at Wake Forest School of Divinity for giving me the opportunity to speak at this summer learning collaborative. I think it's exciting to have moments like this where we can join together in networks and share knowledge. I'm eager to dive into my presentation today and definitely want to be mindful of the time. Before we begin, I recognize that many of us as activists come to this space with so many other things on our mind. And so, if there's a breathing exercise that you can do with me to center ourselves, if you can breathe in for me and breathe out. And if you're able to put your feet flat on the floor and center yourself one more time, if you can breathe in for me and release the frustrations of the day. And we're gonna do it one more time. If we can breathe in and breathe out. Awesome. Thank you so much. Please allow me to introduce myself. And while I am doing this, I would like to also ask that you introduce yourself in the chat box. Let us know your name, let us know where you're from, let us know your pronouns, any other information you would love to let us know. But at the minimal, please let us know your name and where you're from. But I'm Marvell. Terry II. I use pronouns he, him, his, or anything else respectfully. My work started in Memphis more than a decade ago, with my first role being an HIV tester and linking newly diagnosed individuals into care. I've worked locally in Memphis to ensure that Black folks have what they need to live healthy and happy lives. I love music, specifically Fantasia and orchestral performances, and my favorite dessert is coconut cake. I've also had the opportunity and the experience of starting the Imago Dei HIV ministry at my home church in Memphis, Christ Missionary Baptist Church. And so I wanted to share that, as I know that we have a very diverse audience here, and some of those individuals are faith leaders, faith ambassadors, HIV ministry leaders. And so I wanted to share that I too have had an opportunity to start a HIV ministry. For the purpose of this presentation, I think it's important to also disclose that I am a consultant with Wake Forest School of Divinity, and also I'm an advisory member with the Campus Coordinating Center. Finally, my comments today do not represent the Presidential Advisory Council on HIV and AIDS. During our time together today, we have three objectives. The first one is explore the MIPA framework, which is essential to our work and to ending the HIV epidemic. I will share a snapshot of the activism in the HIV movement that informed the Denver principles and the meaningful involvement of people living with HIV. And then thirdly, our goal is to engage in a conversation on how to enhance our program implementation with key impacted populations in mind. So in June of 1983, 12 individuals impacted by AIDS came together to draft a significant document known as the Denver Principles. This powerful manifesto outlined the rights and the responsibilities of people living with AIDS, healthcare providers, and the general public. It served as a pivotal moment in the history of AIDS activism, advocating for the dignity, autonomy, and fair treatment of those impacted by the disease. In that document, that manifesto, which is now known as the Denver Principles, created by the 12 people impacted by AIDS, they advocated for several key principles. These principles, included the rights for people living with HIV to choose their own representation, have meaningful engagement with the media, set their own agenda, and implement their own strategies. This document was significant in empowering individuals living with HIV to have a voice in their own care and advocacy efforts. We now call that framework meaningful involvement of people living with HIV. But before we get into that particular framework and what does that mean, I first would like to pose a question. What other movement spaces or ideas do we recognize it is important to engage meaningful key populations? Feel free to unmute yourself or put it in the chat box. I would love to hear some voices of other ideas or frameworks that it is important to involve key populations. We got one issue right now in the news. Let me see if y'all in the chat box. Movement for Black Lives, reproductive justice, yes. Any other movements right now happening that you recognize it is important to meaningfully include key populations? Seeing some comments in the box. One of the examples that I have, reparations movement. Let me see if any other comments. Importance to participate fully in voting. Good points. One of the points that I really wanted to make, and I apologize if y'all hear the noise, they're cutting the grass outside, is reproductive justice. It is important that we engage those who can bear children, and I'm very, very careful with my language because we recognize that trans men also can bear children, and so it is important that we engage individuals who can bear children in our reproductive justice movement. So I wanted to start there. So the idea of meaningful involvement is not foreign, or this concept is not foreign to us. It is also important to engage young folks in policies or in decision making as well. And so that is no different than the concept of meaningful involvement of people living with HIV. MIPA, or meaningful involvement of people living with HIV, is a crucial approach that focuses on purposefully involving individuals living with HIV in leadership, in advocacy roles, and decision-making processes. This approach is especially important for those who represent communities that are most impacted by the HIV epidemic. By actively engaging individuals living with HIV in these capacities, MIPA aims to ensure that their voices are heard and that their experiences inform the development and the implementation of strategies and policies related to HIV and AIDS. MIPA also acknowledges the invaluable contributions and expertise of individuals living with HIV in the assessment and execution of policies, programs, and funding related to the HIV epidemic. MIPA also aims to establish an inclusive environment wherein individuals living with HIV are actively engaged in every facet of the response to this epidemic. This involvement ensures that the response is comprehensive, it is representative, and reflective of the diverse needs and perspectives of those affected by HIV. Some of the benefits of incorporating MIPA into our programs, into our HIV ministries, into our community engagement, and I will go far enough to say into our sermons and into our proclamations. It facilitates genuine connections and sustained engagement with the community. It leads to a more holistic and effective approach to addressing the needs of those impacted by HIV. Another benefit is it develops a grounded understanding of the pervasive effects of stigma and discrimination you get to hear firsthand, which can inform more targeted and impactful interventions to combat these issues. Another benefit would be increased effectiveness of policies and programs through the firsthand insights and experiences of individuals living with HIV, leading to a more relevant and impactful strategy. And one last benefit that I name is it improves our sustainability of projects and our organizations through the meaningful involvement of those directly impacted by HIV. It, and as a result of this, our programs are more closely aligned with the actual needs and experiences of the community. Some examples of meaningful involvement of people living with HIV. And I've listed some examples. These are not all of the examples. And I would then the question after this is how have you engaged or how have you meaningfully involved people living with HIV? And so maybe you're doing something that is not up here. And so we would love to hear from you. But the first one is establishing an advisory or community advisory board or council consisting of individuals living with HIV and AIDS and community members to provide input and guidance on program development and implementation. And this is also, I want to make sure that I continue to say this is inclusive of our HIV ministries. This is not just for organizations or community based organizations. I want to make sure that those who are under the sound of my voice that are in church or faith based settings that you recognize that this also can apply to the work that you do. Co-leadership model with the person living with HIV, implementing a co-leadership model where a person living with HIV is involved in decision-making process and holds a leadership position within the organization. Consulting on writing grants and including in program implementation, seeking input from individuals living with HIV, when writing your grants and proposals, involving them in the implementation of the funded programs. And so it's not enough to just consult with them on writing the grant. Now that you have the grant, is there an opportunity or a possibility to employ that person, which leads us right into my next statement, is that employing individuals living with HIV and providing comprehensive health benefits as part of their employment package is another way that structurally we don't also acknowledge structurally and socially how we can intentionally include people living with HIV. And this is definitely a structural way that we can include people living with HIV. And then finally, having them as a speaker for your World AIDS Day program at your church or in your program or any other workshop that you might have. National Significant Days, National Black Folks Day Living with HIV is also another example of meaningful engagement where you can include speaker. And it is not up here, but I also want to say if you invite them as a speaker, compensate them. Any key population that you invite or engage to speak, just remember to compensate them. I want to pause now and see, are there any other examples that you all have employed in your agencies or in your HIV ministry to meaningful involve people living with HIV? I would love to hear from some people. I know we're not a quiet group. Please provide some examples. Part of this summer learning collaborative is also sharing best practices with each other. And so, as a learning cohort, this is an opportunity for you all to share best practices with each other. Or even if you say, I don't even know how to do this. I am new to this and I don't know how to do this. And so, this is an opportunity where I want to pause and intentionally hear from you all. I see a hand, John Setless, if I'm
Settles.
saying that correctly.
Yeah.
Settles, I'm sorry. I
Um,
overcomplicated it.
no, well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is John Settles. I am an independent creative artist from Atlanta, Georgia, and the specific way that I used MIPA for my project is that, well, first I'll start with this. So I made a short film titled Fear Not, and it is about someone who has HIV, who has a crisis of faith after he discovers he has HIV. And so, to make sure that the dialogue and the conversations within the film were honest and authentic, I asked many people that did live with HIV, what was their experience like? What were some of the things that they heard, both positively and negatively? And what kind of conversations did they have when they first found out that they were living with HIV? And also, what did that feel like for them? and everything to really, really make sure that any dialogue I had, within the film was again honest and authentic about it. Because I believe it's our duty as both artists and activists that if we're gonna share this story about people that live with HIV, we need to be, very authentic and very direct about how we go about telling these stories.
Thank you so much for that, John. Um, I would love to hear other voices on how you have seen examples of meaningful involvement or employed that at your organization or ministry. I don't want to call on folks, but since we're here, I will call on a couple people that I see. Let's see. Valeria, can you share with me how your agency has employed this framework of MIPA?
You see, I'm trying to come off mute.
Yeah, I see. Yes.
Sometimes technology is not friendly to everybody. We have been really trying hard to make sure that MIPA is I want to say our very first sentence that we start with in everything that we do. We have put that um, in our what is that called? You see how you have a brain freeze. We've put it in our projects that we use for everything with our organization so that any new employees that are coming on board, so that current employees that maybe be moving into additional roles, all understand that we're standing on this. We also have in every single grant we write, we're including that. Also in our board of directors, when they have, we have new board members that come on board and we have maybe again, just like staff moving into additional role, there's board expectations and it's in our board of expectations. So we want everyone to fully understand what NCAN stands for. And it really starts to come into play when you're dealing with the legislature. North Carolina, as you know, is a purple state. So we're doing just as much work with the Democrats as we're doing with the Republicans. So before they try to stigmatize, we put it straight out on front that this is what we're standing on. And like the kids say, stand on business that we, this is us and this is what we're looking for. So that's what we
Awesome.
do.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much.
I'll
Thank you
do
so much.
better next time you call on me. I'll be prepared to click my
No,
video on and off and my mute.
no, it's all good. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Marvell.
And thank you. You're welcome. I would like to call on Dr. Bowers. Could you share with us how you have intentionally applied this framework of MIPA? And I see a question in the chat, and I hope I've done a great job thus far of explaining what MIPA is. But it is the meaningful involvement of people living with HIV. It is intentionally including individuals living with HIV in our programs, in our ministries, in our decision making, in our leadership and co-leadership models. And so part of this presentation is exploring ways or strategies to end the HIV epidemic. It cannot be done without people living with HIV. And so MIPA is a framework that we can use to engage a key population impacted by HIV. And so I think, Derek, I've explained that in a very quick way. I would love to hear from Dr. Bowers on how you have employed MIPA in the work that you do. Not hearing from Dr. Bowers. Let's see. Well, I will call one more person. One more person. I don't want to pick on everybody, but I would love to see. I would love to hear from someone that has an HIV ministry. HIV ministry. How have you engaged people living with HIV?
So, can you hear me, Marvell?
Yes, I can hear you. I'm trying
Okay,
to see
this is
who you
Pastor
are.
Javon. I have my video. I'm driving, so that's why I don't have my
Okay,
video on.
okay.
But really quickly, as I said, of course, as a pastor living with HIV, and within our ministry, we have implemented where all of our leaders are currently getting trained in the area of watching language as it relates to HIV. Although I pastor an affirming church, we have made sure that we have trained our leaders on using the language. But also, most recently, what we have done is we don't directly have the ministry specifically, just a HIV specific ministry. But what we've done is we partner with our organizations that we collaborate with, and we help with their support groups, and we offer them space to host the support groups within our ministry as well. So although we don't directly offer saying like, hey, this is a HIV ministry, within the ministry, we say, hey, we have support groups that are being held here, but we also have them that are being held in other areas. If you don't want to do it right here at your church, you can go to one of the other groups. And what we do is we provide opportunities for them to definitely share their experiences, their ideas with us, and any of the planning that we do when it involves any events that are concerning HIV and AIDS. And we make sure that we allow them their voices to be heard. And so some of our leadership most recently, because they know that it's near and dear to my heart, as their pastor living with HIV, they have taken on the responsibility of making sure that we implement ways to keep the meaningful involvement of people living with HIV in our ministry.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you, Pastor, for sharing that. Would anyone else like to offer any best practices or any ways that they have done work in how you have implemented MIPA in your faith-based setting? I would love to hear from at least one more faith-based person or how you have incorporated HIV, or people living with HIV. I'm going to call on, I would love to hear from Crystal Nelson. Crystal Nelson, can you talk to me? How have you used the framework of MIPA?
Okay, so I just came in. I just got out of a meeting, so I'm not
Okay,
really sure. Like literally 2 seconds just got in.
good. I
So
think we'll also, yeah, I think also what this moment also shares with me, and I hope it informs the Wake Forest team, is that this concept of MIPA is new to this audience. And so I hope that you all will receive this presentation. For those of you who joined a little bit later that did not catch the beginning of this presentation, but I also think we can do some maybe individual work with some of you all on how to institute MIPA into your organizations. I want to close with some key takeaways that I hope that you learned from today's session. One, it is important to leverage the lived experiences of people living with HIV to advance this movement. For those who joined in again, I joined a little later. Again, MIPA is a framework where we want to intentionally involve people living with HIV into our ministries, into our decision-making process, that if you are thinking about doing anything HIV related in your community, in your church, in your sorority, in your fraternity, wherever you might do HIV work, it is important to co-implement that or co-brainstorm that with a person living with HIV. And that is simply what this framework is. It is not a perfect framework. I don't want us to walk away from here tokenizing individuals just to say, you know, we've done the MIPA framework, but we want to intentionally engage people living with HIV. Another key
I think I
takeaway
can
is what I,
answer
oh, go ahead, go ahead.
just from what you shared. I think I could
Okay,
go ahead and answer the question.
come on.
So we are moving, trying to always do some different things each year that we start a new grant process. And one of the things that we're going to do is have someone on the team that is actually living with HIV and kind of give us guidance on the things that they feel like need to be focused on, and just trying to make sure that the programs that we already have implemented will be something that really serves that population. And also, some of the programs that we have, a lot will center around mental health and providing like free therapy sessions for those that are living with HIV, but we would promote the program to not only the ones that are living with HIV, but also may be affected by it, maybe family members doing family therapy as well. And then we're partnering with local agencies that already, where we will be partnering with agencies that already provide for group therapy sessions and peer supported group therapy. We also are trying to implement a program. We've titled it Invisible Voices, where the people that may want to share their journey on, you know, where things begin from the diagnosis to where they are, that could help with educating the community about how life is, living healthy, or whatever they want to express. They can do this anonymously, and we're trying to figure out how we can put this in a documentary form that can be shared with other agencies. And we just completed one of our first trainings with one of the churches in the community, and we'll be able to go outside of the city next month. And we have a training called Beauty for Ashes that kind of talks about HIV stigma, talks about trauma, talks about just everything dealing with the thoughts that may come from people that are not familiar with HIV, and giving basic information and education about HIV awareness and preventive measures, and giving them the opportunity to kind of just self-reflect on their personal thoughts and biases, and being able to have them to release that by the end of the training sessions that we provide. So we're trying to mix the population with prevention, and also making sure we're not leaving out those that are actually living with HIV, and providing them with resources and an opportunity to share their testimonies of where they've come, where they've been, and where they're going, and how they're doing at this point.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for that, Crystal. Giving that exhaustive response, very detailed response. Thank you for the work that you're doing. So thank you so much for that. I do see a hand, Jamie, if I'm saying that correctly. How you doing?
Yes, well, it's Jaime in Spanish, but no, doesn't matter. I'm used to it. Okay, well, in Renacer Fund.
No, I'm saying you
Say
had
that?
your hand raised.
Oh, yes. Oh, let me lower the hand. Yeah. Okay. In Renacer Foundation, I just shared the two of many posts that we have in Instagram. We have more than 1 million people in our social media, integrating all our social media. So we share also, well, it is in Spanish, you can translate it, but it's aware of HIV discrimination, you know, even if women are pregnant, what they have to do. We share with a lot of the community that that is no, you know, is not a death sentence that for people that have HIV. That is not that we can live in a world together. We can share. We can live with a lot of people with HIV without any inconvenience, because you know, in the Latin community, it used to be like a huge stigma around it. So, but now we are trying to get that down and explain to people that it's just a matter of, you know, illness or something that people may have, and that's it. It's just explaining that. And that's what we do in Renacer Foundation. And also, if people need to they need any kind of advice, the Father Hoover and Laura over there, they are psychologists, so they can just, you know, start like a therapy with them. And if they need a special treatment and medical treatment, we just like focus on what they need and make sure they have it.
Thank you so much for providing that. And we see that you also provide in the chat box, so thank you. I want to
Thank
open it up for thank you for Q&A. If there are any questions, I'm here to answer any questions that you might have. One thing I did fail to disclose earlier, but I think Dr. Tasha read it in my bio, is that I too am a person living with HIV, and so this presentation was not only done from a very professional perspective, but I also did it from a very personal perspective as well. And so I hope that I was able to weave the professional and the personal throughout this entire presentation. To our sister Yolanda, I see your hand is up.
Yes, thank you. Great presentation. I just had a quick question. Do you have any recommendations on the appropriate types of trainings that we can provide to make sure that to the consumer, making sure that they know what meaningful engagement means for them as well?
Mm. I don't think right off the top of my head, there's nowhere that I can point to, but if I can do some research and pass it through the Wake Forest team to distribute to you, Ms. Jones, and other individuals. But that's a really good point, and thank you for saying that. For the purpose of people on this call, because words are different in different settings, I know what you meant, but can you share with us when you said consumer? What are you saying?
Oh, a person living with lived
Okay.
experience.
Yeah. Cool. I just want to make sure, we move everybody at the same pace. So I'm gonna look that up and then try to pass that through the Wake Forest team. Are there any other questions? Any comments that you all may have? I see John, your hand is up.
Yeah, so one question that I have is because after the pastor spoke earlier, it made me think about what are some of the conversations that either you or anybody else on the call have had concerning ministries and talking about HIV, and what is the hope going forward when combining those two subjects together of HIV and faith?
Hmm. I think I understood your question, and I think
But do I need
that
to say
I
it
can.
again?
Yes.
Okay, so basically just like with like how you talk about HIV within faith-based settings, right? Like what's the current conversation that's being had and what's the future hope for what those conversations can evolve into?
Sure. Thank you for rephrasing that question. I think it's really, and I don't want to speak out of turn. And I see, Pastor, you raised your hand, and so I will take a first attempt at responding at this, and then I think Pastor Javon, you can also respond, and I also invite the Wake Forest staff in here as well. Uh, for me, and my approach working with faith-based settings is that, well, first, I am meeting the faith-based space where they are. And so some churches are not even talking about HIV at all. And so for that particular congregation, it is a HIV one-on-one conversation around dispelling myths, around educating around language, around introducing HIV testing and admonishing the parishioners to get tested. I think there's another level of this conversation to acknowledging that it is a social justice issue in our communities, particularly in Black and Brown communities. And so at that congregation, if they are already having the HIV 101 conversation, then maybe we can have the HIV 201 conversation around injectables and reproductive justice and access and things like that. And so I think it depends on what level the church is on, and you can take that particular church from there. Where are we heading? I think and I believe that it is imperative that churches and faith-based settings get involved in the fight for HIV. That is more than just doing HIV testing in your church. Most recently, Congress attempted to cut HIV funding. The Black church, um, I believe that it is imperative that the Black church is also part of that conversation. There's a conversation. There's a proposal on President Biden's desk now around establishing a national PrEP program. How does the Black church feel about that? Is there some advocacy that our churches and our faith-based settings can do around that? And so when you ask the question, where are we going? I think it's really around policy. I think it's around budget implications because that impacts Black and brown folks. I think it's about talking explicitly about sex in our churches, in our congregations. I think it's explicitly talking about pre-exposure prophylaxis and Black women in our congregation as a social justice issue. And so there are many ways and many formats that we can have these conversations. And so I want to pause there. And I know Pastor Jovan, you had your hand up.
So, my brother, first of all, I think you get a very strong answer. As far as dealing with the fact that sometimes with certain churches you may have to address it as a social justice issue. With other churches you may have to really do the HIV one-on-one conversation. But I think also a thought to the question that was asked is that there is a lot of conversation about this, and I think this is a lot of the main frame of the work of what Wake Forest University has been doing over the past year and extending into the southern states. Of saying, hey, we want to make sure that this conversation is being had amongst faith communities. A sister of mine, we were in a meeting recently, and I'm remiss to say her name right now, but a sister of mine said recently, there was once upon a time that the Black church was the anchor for all things Black. I don't think that has really stopped. I think that it has dwindled in some cases because the Black church is, taking a lot of hits along the years. But I think that we're getting back to a space where we have to get our churches back to addressing issues head on, as Marvell was just saying so eloquently, and making sure that people do understand the importance of being involved, advocating, having a part in policy, making sure that our Black and brown people and communities understand the importance of voting and those type of things. And so these conversations are not just being had with Wake Forest, but Duke University is actually piloting a program kind of around the same type of thought pattern of getting our faith communities involved in this conversation of dealing with HIV and involving the meaningful involvement of people living with HIV. And I just wanted to put that out there.
Awesome. I appreciate that. And I see one more hand, and I want to move on because I know Wake Forest has some closing thoughts as well. Hoover, if I'm pronouncing that right. I saw your hand, Hoower.
Yes, it's Hoover. I am from Colombia, but my name is the machine for the clean carpet.
Okay.
I don't know
Thank
why.
you for joining us.
Thank you. We was experienced, but English is broken, sorry. Maybe Jaime help me for the traduction. But la experiencia del año pasado con nosotros, invitamos a 35 pastores cristianos a hacer oración en el Día Mundial del SIDA. Y de esas todas...
Let me translate. The last year we invite 35 pastors from the Black church to pray for the HIV people.
Y solo 15 pastores aceptaron la invitación y 20 dijeron que definitivamente no.
15, they say that they came, and 20, they say no. That invitation.
Sin embargo, fue una experiencia muy bonita porque eran pentecostales, adventistas, iglesia cuadrangular, iglesia católica, iglesia episcopal, presbiteriana, bautista, 15 denominaciones, escuchando el testimonio de una persona con VIH y comprometiéndose en sus iglesias a hablar de VIH y de prevenir y eliminar el estigma.
However, the experience was really, really good because it was an amazing time with all the Baptists, the different kind of church, the Episcopal one, all of them together praying for the same aim and sharing information. And one of the people that was over there was sharing his life about having HIV.
Y fruto de esa experiencia, una organización non-profit pudo abrir una clínica de VIH en una iglesia.
And the big result of that was that a church could open like medical assistance for people with HIV.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you for that. I want to make sure that I didn't miss a question in that, and that was just a comment about a recent experience. I just want to make sure that wasn't a question in there.
Not a question. It was just the comment that for people that we invite, that for the 35 that we invite, just 15 assist. So it was kind of disappointing at the beginning, but the experience was really good.
Yeah. So thank you first for sharing your experience. Secondly, thank you for this collaborative way in which we're communicating. Language justice is important. So I appreciate Wake Forest for making space for other languages and other cultures. So that's another acknowledgement. I think, you know, my pastor taught me to don't count the numbers, but make the numbers count. And so I recognize that you've planned for a certain number, but only another number showed up. Is keep working at it, keep being consistent and network. And I think more people will come around, and the necessary people that need to be there will always be there. What I also like that you displayed and shared with us is that churches do have the possibility to open up clinics. Yes, that includes a little bit more work, but when we think about Black and Brown folks having optimal health care, having a high quality experience in a healthcare setting, why aren't churches getting into the business of providing some framework? I'm not saying we need to open up FQHCs. What I am suggesting, though, when we talk about what can our faith-based settings do, it is providing space maybe for our church to be a satellite clinic for a local clinic in the city. And so there are many ways to look at this and do this particular type of work. One thing that I want to make sure that we do is we're going to continue to have these conversations in the Learning Collaborative throughout this summer. And so a shameless plug is please make sure that you are part of the other 3 conversations. They are amazing, and they are also a part of kind of what we've brought up today and what lifted to the surface today. I wanted to close out by first sharing my information. My personal website is here. But I'm also wanted to share with you, I'm hosting a summit on September the 11th called Black in the South Summit. I believe it's important for Black folks to get in a room and interrogate our strategies for addressing HIV in the South. And so I'm hosting this as a pre-conference to the United States Conference on HIV and AIDS. So it is simply the day before the United States Conference on HIV and AIDS in New Orleans, Louisiana. So I wanted to also share that, and it's at a HBCU because I believe that our Black institutions have an assignment to address HIV and AIDS. And so I want to pass this back to the amazing team at Wake Forest to finish out the rest of this presentation.
All right. Thank you, Marvell, for that wonderful presentation. Definitely robust and very filled with content that we can all use and apply in our respective areas. I just want to take a moment to highlight some key takeaways from Marvell's presentation for you just to be mindful of. Keep in mind that it is crucial to consider the lived experiences of people living with HIV in advancing the movement. Also, in developing and implementing programs, it is essential to prioritize the voices of the community being supported. And lastly, try to remember to learn about the history of the HIV movement, including the organization ACT UP. All right. I see you all in the chat. Great presentation, Marvell. Round of applause. If you can do that virtually, we celebrate you being with us. Thank you for your ministry and your knowledge and wisdom that you've been sharing with us. I want to take a moment, please, if you will. I'm going to launch a poll, and I'm going to leave that open as I talk. So if you can multitask, there's a poll that you should see. Are you all seeing that poll? Marvell, are you able to?
Yes, I am.
Okay, very nice. So as I'm talking, if you would just do us a favor and give us some feedback based on those 3 questions, that will be awesome. And while I'm doing that, I want to also share with you all some upcoming opportunities that we have. If you can multitask, hopefully so. So we have some other learning opportunities that we want to share with you. Next up, June 18th through the 20th, we will be having our Restoring and Restoring Learning Symposium here on the campus of Wake Forest University. And it is actually a free event. It is 2.5 days. We'd love for you to join us. I think some of our grantees are on here, and you all have been recipients of grant monies, and they are allocation dollars available for you to use to travel. You can use some of your money to come to this event. It is free. However, the travel and other amenities are not included, but we'd like to invite you to join us. Reverend Dr. Melva Sampson, Erie Sessions, Reginald Williams, and Itahari Ture will be with us, and we're gonna have a powerful discussion on some groundbreaking work and conversations that they will be hosting for us. In addition to that, on June 26th, if you could say the date, we will be having another learning collaborative session with none other than Reginald Kitt, Reverend Dr. Reginald Kitt, and he will be doing a session on shared best practices, tried and true methods for building an HIV ministry. Dr. Kitt is a former ambassador of our inaugural faith cohort, and he will be sharing information about best practices as he was able to implement and roll out his program in the fair city of High Point, North Carolina. The last opportunity I'd like to share with you all is all the way in November. Somebody turns to your neighbor and say November the 3rd. On Tuesday, November the 3rd, we will be hosting our inaugural John W. Hatch lecture series. And we would like for you to say the date. More information will be coming in that regard. And it is a one-day information symposium that we will be hosting here on the campus at Wake Forest. And we'd love for you to be able to join us. There will be opportunities for you to connect with that learning opportunity virtually if you're not able to be present. And lastly, I just want to share with you all, many of you are connected with us, but know that we are on LinkedIn, Instagram, as well as Facebook, Faith Compass Center. That is how you can find us. And please let us know if we can be of any support to you. And we want to again say thank you for joining us. Are there any questions and or comments? Oh, I do want you all to know that once you have completed your poll and your survey, we will follow up with you within the next couple of days and send you out the PowerPoint as well as some additional resources that Marvell has penned in regards to the Denver principles. And this information, in particular, the MIPA information is in English as well as Spanish and French. And so we will be able to share those resources with you, but we need you to please complete the evaluation so that we can have that for our records. That would be awesome. I'm going to check the chat. Are there any? Okay. No, the survey is still available. Hold on one second. And if not, I can reshare it if there are challenges with accessing, and maybe it stopped. All right.
Dr. Tarsha, I have a quick question. This is Derek.
Okay, hold on one second, Derek.
Okay.
Launch the poll, and I'm gonna leave it open until we end this call. I'm gonna leave it right there. Okay, Derek. So if you haven't answered the poll, you can go in now and answer it. All right, Derek, I'm listening.
So you mentioned or asked if there were ways the Faith Conference Center could help or assist. We're doing One Love Festival this year, June 27th through the 29th, and was curious to know how we can get information to you all, or what's the best way or process to get information to you all in order to assist putting the information out within you all's network and the community.
Think that could happen if you and I have a conversation. I'm happy to stay on and we can exchange information and or find out what would be the best way for you to get that information to us, and we could possibly distribute that to our constituents.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Derek. So don't go anywhere. My apologies, Crystalline, thank you. November 3rd is on a Sunday. You're exactly right. So it is actually November the 5th, which is the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. My apologies for that. All right, so it's Tuesday, November the 5th for the Hatch Lecture Series, which you will be able to register to be online, and or you can be in person. All right.
I just want to make sure you're saying November is actually December the 3rd.
I'm sorry. That's the problem. Thank you, Shonda. I'm saying November, but it is December the 3rd. That's the issue. So Crystalline, I hope you have that. But if not, if you've completed the poll, please feel free to end. Okay, she said she got it. All right, thank you. My apologies for that mix up. It really is December the 3rd, not November. All right. And I'm assuming that maybe some people are still completing the poll. I'm going to leave it up for a few more minutes. And we will send this poll out as well. If you don't have an opportunity to complete it here, it will come out electronically so that you can complete it. Any other questions? Please don't relaunch it. I'm trying to retype. All right, I will not relaunch. My apologies. We'll just leave it right there, and I will stay on for a few minutes to offer you all the opportunity to complete that. And if not, we look forward to seeing you on June 26th for our next Summer Learning Collaborative, and we can't wait to have you join us. Bring a friend, bring your organization, bring 3 or 4 more people if you need to, and we'd love to have you. I'll stay on if there are any additional questions or support needed with completing the Zoom poll. Thank you all for joining us. Hello, for those of you that are still here, are you still working? Emily, are you still working on the survey? Hello? Look at this one. Hello? Hi, Emilio. Hello? Hello?
Hello, hello.
All right, Emilio, hi.
Hey, how are you? Dr. Tasha. Doctor, congratulations.
Thank you. We love you.
I love you.
Yes, we're done. We started at 2.
Really?
2 p.m.
Oh my God. Why I have 3 p.m. here?
I don't know. 2 p.m. So you have to come back next time. I just left it open for a few people to do the poll, but we're
Okay.
getting ready to close it out. The session is over.
Oh my God. I have in my calendar, I don't know why, 3 p.m.
I am so sorry. I was like, Emilio's coming on. I was just getting ready to close the classroom.
Oh my God.
But it's okay.
Okay.
You can come back next time.
When is going to be the next time?
June 26th, 2 p.m.
June 26, 2 p.m. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Great to see you.
Likewise, good to hear your voice. Take care.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.